Hi, I'm Christian Peter, president of Dark Horse Commercial, and thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we're going to be talking about the ultimate guide for Miami warehouse owners, how to sell for top dollar fast. And in this edition, we're going to be talking about how to choose the right broker. Now, contrary to popular belief, all brokers and agents are not created equal, though on the surface, sometimes it might seem so. There is a relatively low barrier to entry into the market. So it's hard to tell a broker that's been in the business for a year versus 20 years. So let's talk about some interview questions that you might want to ask them in terms of what their qualifications are. So, one of the first things I would ask when interviewing a broker is how long have they been in the business? Right? That's going to tell them because I always tell people time takes time, right? And there's a certain amount of seasoning that goes with getting years in the business and seeing different types of transactions. So I would be very, very hesitant to hire someone that's brand new to the business. If your friend's son just got his real estate license, be careful. It's not just putting a couple of pictures online and then hoping that offers come in. There's actually an art and a science to this business. And more than that, once you get the property under contract, there's an art and science to getting properties across the finish line. There are a lot of landmines and common mistakes that people make during the closing process. So, an unseasoned agent just wouldn't know how to navigate those things. It's not their fault. They just haven't had enough time in the market. Another question I would ask is, have you ever sold this type of property? You get a residential agent who's only sold homes and condos, though they might have been born and raised here. They might not be exposed to the marketing platforms that commercial brokers use, as an example. They might not know who the buyers are in the area. They might not know who owns in the area. They might not understand the zoning implications. They might not understand how to underwrite properties. They might just give you a value of your property, and it's based on comparative sales as opposed to if you own an income producing asset, an investment grade asset. It's a very different valuation. It's the income method as opposed to comparative sales. So very important that they have sold that type of property before. Another question I would ask if I was in the shoes of a seller and looking to possibly sell my property was, do you have any certifications? Certifications are what weed out the good brokers from the bad brokers. Think of it this way. The person that has a undergrad, master's, doctorate in a subject, do you think they're more knowledgeable than the person that maybe only has a GED? Right? You can kind of think of a real estate license as getting a GED. A lot of people have them. It's a relatively low bar to get in. But so I would ask people if they have certifications in the market. So for instance, CCIM, it's a great certification. Only 6% of brokers and agents across the country have their CCIM. It stands for Certified Commercial Investment Member. And what that means is they understand how income producing assets operate. It's a very long course. It takes a year or two to complete, and you have to go through a series of classes. There's a comprehensive exam. There's a reason why only 6 to 7% of agents have it. SIOR is another good one. So you want to make sure that whoever you choose, typically most people don't own dozens and dozens of buildings. They might own either one or two or maybe even a small handful. So you can't afford to make the mistake of hiring the wrong person just because you know them. Ask them what their qualifications are. You wouldn't go into a doctor's office and if he had a nickname or had a name tag on his shirt and it just said Bob, wouldn't you want it to know that Bob was a doctor before he started poking and prodding and cutting, right? Same thing. You want to make sure that whoever's handling your, in some cases, multi-million-dollar property has the qualifications and has done it before and in that market and with that property type. How to vet track records and specialties. A lot of people can put, a lot of information up online and they can make themselves look real good with a real snazzy track record and so forth. But what you want to see is how long they've been in the business and what they specialize in. You know, you wouldn't go to a foot doctor if you're having brain surgery. You wouldn't go to a heart doctor if you were having your brain surgery. So what you want to do is you want to work with someone that specializes in the product that you're trying to sell. Logical, right? You wouldn't ask a banana salesman to sell a Toyota, and you wouldn't ask a Toyota salesman to sell advertising, right? It's very, very different. It helps if someone specializes and you look at the length of their track record. Red flags to watch out for if someone has only been in the business a short period of time. Number one, if someone says they do commercial and residential, I have news for you. They do the majority of residential and they've probably only done a small amount. It's just the way it is. I've been in this business a long time. In fact, I used to coach agents. I've coached over 325 agents, and any agent I've ever met that says residential and commercial, it means the majority of their business comes from residential. No shame on them, no shade to them. It's just that they might not have the qualifications. So make sure you vet the track record. Another one would be if they've never sold your property type before, like we talked about before. And another one would be if they're not qualified, if they don't have those advanced certifications. I would want, if someone was doing brain surgery, would want that person to be up on all the latest. I would want someone, if I'm putting my life in their hands, in this case, you're putting a big portion of your net worth in their hands, I would want that person to be as qualified as possible. Now, as an example, right? We're going to talk about how the right broker, in this case, it was my company, and we had a property that was for sale, and we were asking 4 million for it. And because we had been up and down that road, because we knew the buyers in the area, but because we had a fantastic database and we knew how to navigate the closing, this property, we were able to create a a bidding environment for between the buyers, where we got my client, the seller, an extra $1 million. From 4 million, we got the property closed at $5 million. Why? We had two people that really, really wanted it, and they competed for the pole position in terms of, and we figured out who was willing to pay the most, and it resulted in an additional 20%. This happened to be a redevelopment project, and the seller was a church. So it's really, really good to know that the money went to a good cause, and went to go to the parish to help other people out because they did missionary work and so forth. So it was all around a fantastic transaction, and it's only because we knew the market, we knew the area, we knew who would be willing to pay the most, and we were able to get them top dollar. And best of all, it went to a great cause. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of insight. So when the time comes and you are looking to bring your property to market, how you can discern one agent from another. A lot of folks only learn too late that they should have gone with another agent because they didn't ask a handful of questions. Hopefully I've given you some things to think about so that when the time does come, you'll be prepared with the right kind of agenda to ask and interview questions to ask. If you're looking to sell your property, I'm more than happy to do a free, risk-free, no pressure valuation of your property to see what it's selling for in today's market. Not what others are asking for, but what properties in your market are actually selling for. Happy to do that for you. If you go to www.darkhorse-commercial.com and click on request valuation, enter your contact information in. We'll be reaching out to you so that we can help you not only know exactly what your property is worth, but also give you a roadmap to make sure that when you take your property to market, you get top dollar for your property. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you soon.